Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. Hope everyone is staying safe. Hope everyone is staying at home and enjoying WrestleMania week if they can. Of course, it doesn't feel like WrestleMania week, does it really? With everything that's going on, obviously, it's almost a bit of an afterthought at this point, but it is WrestleMania week. WrestleMania weekend, for the first time ever, is upon us. The WrestleMania too big for one night. They're calling it. It's not. They just need to split the days up. So for the first time ever, WrestleMania is going to be on a Saturday and a Sunday. So in this video, we're going to do a little bit of a predictions video, a little bit of a preview. At the time of recording at the moment, I don't think WWE have specifically said which matches are going to be on which days. Now, that could change. We'll probably find out sooner rather than later, I would hope. I mean, I don't know, but we'll find out. So we're just going to run through all the matches here, give a bit of a preview, bit of a prediction for each one. There are 16 matches at the time of recording right now. Now, I'm recording this before SmackDown airs on the Friday, so there is going to be a few changes, specifically the Universal Championship match, which we know about, but there could be some more. We've heard a million times or a million reports over the last week or so since WrestleMania was recorded. It is, of course, going to be pre-taped. It was recorded last week at the Performance Center and various locations, that there might be some more changes. There might be some more people that have pulled out. There might be some more swerves that WWE has recorded. And also it's been reported that they've recorded multiple finishes for the big matches. So there's going to be a lot of misinformation flying around. Obviously, there's not going to be no spoilers in this video. Just preview and predictions. But my point is that this card is subject to change, as is any wrestling card, but this card more than ever. There are 16 matches that are at the moment listed for the show. That is a crazy number, even for a 2-day show. It's being reported that each show on the Saturday and the Sunday is going to be around 3 hours and 15 minutes in length. Now, for a pro wrestling pay-per-view, that's great. 3 hours 15 is the sweet spot for me. I mean, you think about it, that's 15 minutes longer than your average Raw. I know obviously there are no commercial breaks on pay-per-view or network event, whatever they want to call it. But 3 hours and 15 is, I would say, is the perfect time for a pay-per-view. Of course, WrestleMania, the last however many years, going back to ever since it's been really on the network, shall we say. I'm thinking back to the first WrestleMania that I can recall being really, really, really long was probably WrestleMania 32. 30 and 31 were long, but they weren't as long as 32. And ever since then, that's when you started to get the 6 and 7 hour shows. And then last year's show, which just felt like a marathon watch, didn't it? It really did. You could probably watch Netflix series in less time than you watched WrestleMania last year. And that's actually no exaggeration. That's probably genuinely true for certain Netflix series, isn't it? So they're splitting up the cards the card this year, and 3 hours 15 should make it a bit more easy to digest. But certainly 16 matches. Obviously, I don't think this was the original card that would have happened had the world not gone crazy. But I'm pretty sure, to be honest, that we would have got a similar amount of matches. Let's be honest here. Obviously, there aren't any Battle Royals this year for obvious reasons. But 16 matches, I wouldn't be surprised at all if WWE's original plan had a similar number of matches, but it was going to be on one card on one day. That would have been, towards the end, insufferable to watch, because it's so difficult to watch anything for 7 hours plus. So it's, in a way, it's good that obviously the event's been split up, but obviously the reasons as to why it's been split up aren't great at all, and that raises the bigger question as to, should the event be going on? Should WWE be running shows at all? We'll save that conversation for a later date. Short answer though, in my opinion, no. But that's enough of the preamble. Let's actually get into why you're watching, why we're doing the video today, and that's the WrestleMania predictions. So like I said, we're not really sure the exact order, so we'll just go through the matches as they're listed online. First match, Otis versus Dolph Ziggler with Mandy Rose, of course. Now, to be honest, I've been really, really enjoying this feud. This feud that goes back to, last year almost, I think, because if I recall, Otis did the whole interactions with Mandy Rose, the first real interactions, around Christmas time of 2019. God, doesn't that seem so long ago? How much has changed since then? But yeah, it's been going on since then, and it's great. It's great. I love this storyline. I always mention this on social media when I watch the shows. I'm almost overly invested in it at this point. Like I watch it and I think I shouldn't be this invested in this in this storyline. It's so like comical and maybe doesn't make as much sense. And I don't know. I love the Otis character. I think he's great. I think he's got such a future ahead of him. He's got a lot of potential. I really do think that. And that's not just as a comedy act. You know, if you can have the comedy acts, but I, as a watcher and a viewer, and I think the audience as well, is so invested in this Otis character, whether it is comical or not. We're starting to develop further feelings for him that aren't just comical laughs. It's also sympathy, empathy. And I think he has a wider range of emotion than just being a comical wrestler. And we saw that from when Dolph Ziggler taunted him on SmackDown a few weeks ago, got those pictures up of him and Mandy Rose, and then Otis goes crazy and destroys ringside and destroys or attempts to destroy Dolph Ziggler. There was this huge, like, extended range that I don't think people necessarily thought that Otis actually had in him. For as an audience member to develop sympathy and empathy for him. So I think that shows that there's a lot more to go with this Otis character. He's not just a comical actor, comical superstar. So I think, like I said, I'm looking forward to this one. I think hopefully we'd finally find out as to who sent those mystery texts to Otis on Valentine's Day, who told him that Mandy Rose was running late, when of course she wasn't. She wasn't running late at all at the restaurant. Someone had obviously got onto her phone, snuck her phone, and sent those mystery texts, which allowed Dolph Ziggler to slide in and go on the date with Mandy Rose. And they're together now, of course, aren't they? So who sent the text? I actually did an article for Sportskeeda. You can go and find it on Sportskeeda about the potential culprits for this. I mentioned the likes of course, Sonya Deville, Tucker, Dolph Ziggler, and Tino Sabatelli. Bit of a curveball there on that one. So you can go and read that. Go and get my thoughts on that there. In terms of who do I think is going to win the match, I'm gonna go with Dolph Ziggler, and the reason why, of course, it would make some sense to have Otis finally get some revenge and some redemption. But I mentioned about the reveal about who sent the text, and I know the obvious one is Sonya Deville, but there's something in the back of my head that tells me that I think Tucker might have done it. The jealousy. I'm thinking back. The reason I say it, I'm thinking back to WrestleMania 20, and I'm thinking back to the Christian and Chris Jericho match. Obviously, going into it, they had like the Trish Stratus thing, and Chris Jericho was in love with Trish Stratus, and then it's revealed at the end of the match that Trish Stratus is actually with Christian, and she turns on Chris Jericho, and they had the Christian and Trish Stratus pair, which actually almost went nowhere after that. They did it for a while, and then I believe Christian got injured or Trish Stratus got injured, and it disappeared. But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking one of those moments. So I'm going to go with Dolph Ziggler to win this one. Next up, we have the Women's Tag Team Championships on the line. The WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, defend against the team of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. This wasn't obviously my preferred match for defending the Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania, the Women's Tag Team Championships. It's been over a year now since they've been in WWE, since they were brought in WWE. And it's just... it just hasn't been good, really, has it? The Kabuki Warriors have been the best to hold the tag team titles by far, but that's not really a high bar at all. The initial champions, Bayley and Sasha Banks, nothing happened, and obviously Sasha Banks disappeared after WrestleMania. They only held it about a month or so. You had the Iconics who held it for a while, and then they just basically didn't do anything on TV. They sort of disappeared, and you had Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross win it for a bit, and they were okay. But ever since the Kabuki Warriors beat them at Hell in a Cell last year, nothing really tops them. I think they've been good champions, and I wouldn't take the belts off them at WrestleMania either. I mentioned on social media that, in my opinion, Asuka has been one of the real underrated MVPs of these empty arena shows they've done from the Performance Center. She's appeared on multiple episodes of Raw and SmackDown at this point, and some of her matches, her commentary, her promos have just been so entertaining. They've been great, haven't they? They've been so good. Like I said, maybe they are quite comical, but they're great. And she goes on commentary and she talks Japanese, screams in Japanese. She's cutting promos in Japanese, and I think they're great. As far as the build-up for this match, it was basically Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss call them out. Asuka attacks Alexa Bliss. They have a match. And then we've got the title match at WrestleMania. Okay, I'm not going to criticize too much storytelling from WWE at this point because, look, this has been quite testing time. So the ability to tell proper good stories has been quite difficult if they weren't already in the process of telling them prior to this whole lockdown pandemic situation that we're in now. So I'm not going to heavily criticize on them throwing this together because, look, they've got to do what they've got to do if they insist on going forward with the show. So in terms of the prediction for the match, I would hope that the Kabuki Warriors retain. I don't see any reason for them to take the titles off of them. Like I said, I think Asuka's been one of the MVPs of these empty arena shows, and I think her work should be rewarded. And let's be honest, they're both Raw superstars, the Kabuki Warriors, and they need the titles on Raw to help fill those 3 hours. I think in a SmackDown where a lot of things can seem rushed at times because they've only got 2 hours on Fox, it's quite prime real estate, that, isn't it? They could get even more lost in the shuffle, the tag team titles, than they already are at the moment. So I'd hope that the Kabuki Warriors retain. So that's the prediction I'm going to go for this match. Next up, we have the Intercontinental Championship on the line. We have Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn defending against Daniel Bryan. Of course, in Sami Zayn's corner, we have what they call it, the Liberated Collective or the Artist Collective, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro. And in Daniel Bryan's corner, we have Drew Gulak. I've been enjoying the story they've been telling on SmackDown with this one. This has been one of the few stories going into WrestleMania on SmackDown that they've actually had the ability to tell in these empty arena shows. So I've enjoyed it. I've been enjoying the Drew Gulak-Daniel Bryan partnership. I've mentioned a few times, I think this has the potential to be 2020's version of Team Hell No. And obviously, the Daniel Bryan factor plays into that. But I think they could make a really good tag team that is obviously comical, and obviously does entertaining promos and vignettes. But when it comes to having the match, they can have great matches, technical matches, and a real shooter-style matches. That, of course, at some point down the line leads to another Drew Gulak versus Daniel Bryan match, which was spectacular at Elimination Chamber. Love that match. Love the grittiness and the shooter style of that match. And I think being in a tag team helps build up Drew Gulak as a bigger star, that when they do have that match once again sometime down the line, when the tag team breaks up, that's going to be an even better match than the match at Elimination Chamber, So really looking forward to when that happens. Isn't it just great to have Sami Zayn defending a major championship on a major show? Obviously, it's a shame that it's not in a sold-out stadium, but I think that's the case for a lot of things on this show. So really looking forward to this one. Obviously, Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn match anywhere, I think, is great. And just that's for me, it's a WrestleMania worthy match because they're so great workers and they're so great at what they do. And it's, to be honest, it's just great to have Sami Zayn working a match in general at this point, isn't it? We went so long to see without him working matches at all. So long of him on the outside doing great. I think he's done really, really well in that heel manager role, but his place where he's at his best is in the ring. So I'm really interested in this match. I'm really looking forward to this match. Hopefully they'll be given time. You'd like to think with a show that splits over 2 days that they would actually get some time, and I think that will be the case for this one. In terms of who do I think will win, it's a tough one. This. I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan. But this is one that I think could definitely go either way. I think what's playing on my mind is that obviously Sami Zayn has just won the championship, and I'm never a fan of picking up a title to drop it so quickly unless your name is Bill Goldberg. So potentially Sami Zayn could win this one, but I just think of the WrestleMania feel-good moment. They like to have lots of feel-good moments at WrestleMania, especially in the climate we're at the moment. And the whole story is about Drew Gulak exposing to Daniel Bryan the flaws in his game and getting him better, improving his game. So perhaps Drew Gulak does indeed improve Daniel Bryan's game to a point in which he becomes a champion once again in WWE. Perhaps that is the direction that they're going. And then at some point we can have the Daniel Bryan-Drew Gulak match for the Intercontinental Championship, easy for me to say, sometime down the line. So I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan on this one, but this one could easily go either way. But certainly the match, without question, I have no doubts in my mind at all that the match will be a terrific match. Next up, we have Elias versus King Corbin. Now, this might be the match that I'm the least interested in seeing on this card. This was, and like I said previously, I don't want to criticize WWE for telling stories that don't make a lot of sense, or there's, matches are just thrown together at this point and all of this stuff, because it is very testing times, and the ability to tell logical stories given the circumstances is very, very difficult. So I will give WWE a pass for this one. But the reason I'm not interested in this match is because I'm just not invested in either character at this point. There's no reason to be invested in Elias. I think it's crazy if you think about it. At one point, he was scheduled to face John Cena at WrestleMania. At the time, when I heard that, I thought that was mad. I thought that was crazy. And looking back on it now, it's even more crazy that they even thought that was the way to go at one point. I can't believe, I genuinely, even now, I'm kind of lost for words, you can tell. Who pitched that? Who pitched that? Because, God, even at this trying time, they need to be handed their notice. No. The way they've tried to sort of heat it or tell the story is that Elias has been sort of just following King Corbin around for the last few weeks, singing songs at him, and rightfully so. King Corbin got really annoyed by it. Why wouldn't you? This guy is stalking me, singing at me with a guitar. Like, he shouldn't be rewarded with a match at WrestleMania. He should be sent to jail. So that's been a weird one. And then, of course, last week on SmackDown, King Corbin tried to murder Elias by throwing him off a perch onto the concrete floor in the most ridiculously shot segment ever, in which when Elias fell from this perch onto the concrete, we're talking, again, near homicide here, Elias flew through the air with a whoosh. It sounded like the hurricane. It was... I don't think they were going for comedy, but it certainly came off like that. But apparently Elias would have made a full recovery at WrestleMania, because he's going to be indeed competing against King Corbin, despite nearly being killed a couple of weeks ago. Why? Because of pro wrestling, of course. That's pro wrestling. So whilst I am giving them a pass for throwing matches together, they have actually tried to tell a story in this one, and the story's been terrible. So just not interested in this one at all. Of course, this match was also made initially by the guest host of WrestleMania this year, which is Rob Gronkowski. Gronkowski, of course, has signed with the WWE, and I do expect him, since he was so heavily involved in the start of this angle, making it official for WrestleMania, I suspect he will be heavily involved in this match, and most likely will get physical during this match along with Mojo Rawley. So I'm going to go with Elias to get the win here, and the reason why I think Mojo is going to get involved, Mojo and Rob Gronkowski are going to get involved and cost King Corbin the match. Of course, they might go the other direction. King Corbin might win, 50-50 booking. Of course, King Corbin ate quite a few losses in his what felt like 20-year feud with Roman Reigns last year and this year, so maybe he gets his win back here. But I'm going to go with Elias. I'm going to stick my neck out on Elias here to win the match, despite nearly being killed on network television just a couple of weeks ago. Next, we have Aleister Black going up against Bobby Lashley with his wife, Lana, in his corner. Now, I mentioned about giving WWE a pass for matches that have been thrown together because it's difficult considering the circumstances. This might top the list in terms of matches that have been thrown together and don't make any sense. I mean, whilst I wasn't interested in the Elias versus King Corbin match, at least they have actually tried to tell a bit of a story on TV. This one, they just announced it and everyone went, why? And they've given us no reason why. There's been no angle shot, as far as I can tell, as to why they're facing each other at WrestleMania. So we might actually have a WrestleMania match that was advertised weeks in advance, where there is literally no story. It's like a match on Raw, just, tonight, Aleister Black's facing Bobby Lashley. The same thing's happening for WrestleMania. Obviously, like I said, circumstances are difficult. So I'm going to stick to my word that I'm going to give him a pass. It doesn't mean I have to like it though, and it doesn't make any sense on this one. I believe there were rumours as well about Bobby Lashley potentially not being on the show due to being in quarantine or having a fever or something along those lines, not being able to go along with the protocol required to compete. So maybe that was just a rumour. Obviously, we'll find out in a few days whether it's on the Saturday or the Sunday. But in terms of who do I think will win, I think Aleister Black will win. The reason why is because to be fair, I've been really enjoying the Aleister Black squash matches on Raw recently because I think the empty arena aesthetic and setting actually really helps his character in those squash matches. He is deathly silent in a silent room. The only thing you can hear is when he hits Black Mass, and I think that's actually really helped his character. It's added an extra layer to his character and to his character development. So I've been enjoying the squash matches on Raw more so than I have when he was having them in the arenas. I still would like him to have something more substantial on WWE television, if I'm being completely honest. He had a great feud with Buddy Murphy last year, and then nothing happened after it. He went back to squash matches. So hopefully post-WrestleMania, if WWE, of course, is going on, we don't know if WWE is going to shut down. It looks like they are going to shut down post-WrestleMania. Hopefully, once everything is sorted and back up and running, we can have Aleister Black doing something a bit more substantial. But at least he's on WrestleMania. At least he's on WrestleMania for a match, I suppose. In terms of who do I think is going to win, I think Aleister Black's going to win this one. It seems the right call. He's not doing jobs really to anyone apart from AJ Styles. He did that job on Raw. But apart from that, I don't see any reason to have Aleister Black lose this one, especially when you've built him up so much over the last few weeks on television. So it's a nothing match, but I think Aleister Black is going to win. Next, we have the Raw Tag Team Championships being defended as the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, defend the titles against Angel Garza and Austin Theory, with Zelina Vega in their corner. Now, of course, this was originally meant to be Angel Garza and Andrade, United States champion Andrade, but that was changed due to an injury, they're calling it, on Raw. They had a rib injury. It was reported prior to the Raw tapings that he, of course, was out and Austin Theory was in, so that was confirmed Monday night on Raw. Bit of a strange one in terms of Austin Theory coming in. Obviously, I suppose it's who was available at the time. A lot of people, whilst they might be based in Florida, it was terms of who can step in and do the job well, who fits the storyline. Zelina Vega is building up a hell of a stable of young competitors, and it fits into the storyline, I guess, of Zelina Vega bringing in recruits from NXT. Talk about quick ascension from Austin Theory's point of view. The guy's like 22 years old, and he only debuted with NXT last year. Obviously, he's got his experience with Evolve, but he's a one that Vince McMahon, of course, absolutely loves. You just have to look at him, and you know that Vince will love Austin Theory. There was a spot Monday night on Raw where Montez Ford did a dive to the outside of the ring, and to me, it looked like Austin Theory should have caught him, but didn't know that Ford was coming, or wasn't aware he was coming at that time, or didn't realize he had to catch him at all, because he didn't catch him at all. Just Montez Ford just did a somersault to the outside of the ring and just cracked his back on the entrance ramp. I can't believe he didn't get hurt on that one. That must have banged him up nicely. So, like I said, it's great for Austin Theory, a great opportunity. 22 years old. It's just crazy that he is already on this big stage and having a WrestleMania match so early in his career. And like I said, it's a bit of a strange pairing, but I'm interested to see what happens. In terms of the result, I think the Street Profits retain this one. They've only just won the championships, only a few weeks ago when they beat Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins. I don't expect them to drop it to a sort of a makeshift tag team. Like I mentioned before, I always prefer the tag teams to beat the makeshift tag teams in these situations, because legitimately and logically they know the rules better, they have the chemistry better, they know tag team wrestling better than a makeshift tag team would. So I don't think even if Garza and Andrade were going to be in the match together. I don't think they were going to win it anyway. I think the Street Profits were always going to win this one. They seem to be getting a nice push on Raw. Paul Heyman, of course, is a big fan. Ever since Paul Heyman really took charge, that's when we've had the Street Profits showing up. So it would appear that Paul Heyman and the higher-ups are, including Vince McMahon, of course, are a big fan of the Street Profits. So I don't expect them to be dropping the title at WrestleMania. I expect them to win this one. In terms of the match itself, I mean, you got 4 guys in there that can go. I enjoyed the 6-man tag Monday night on Raw. So it would appear they've got decent chemistry together. Like I said, the wild card for me is Austin Theory. What can he do? I mean, it's a massive, massive opportunity. You're never going to get a bigger opportunity. Considering the circumstances, considering his age, this could really be a huge moment in his career. He could win over so many fans, not just the people watching at home, but the people higher up in WWE. This is your shot. Talk about getting the ball. You've got to run with it, and you've got to hit that home run. I'm mixing a lot of sports analogies there because obviously we don't have sport at the moment, so this is as close as you're going to get. But yeah, Street Profits to retain, but I'm interested in seeing how this match plays out. The next match is for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Now, this one is a bit of a one that, again, is up in the air and is subject to change. So it's a triple threat ladder match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The Miz and John Morrison, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, scheduled to defend against the New Day, Big E and Kofi Kingston, and the Usos. Now, of course, this match is not going to be happening. Reports have suggested that the Miz was ill during the tapings. He had a high fever and some other symptoms. I don't know if that was specifically you-know-what, but because his fever was high and he had some symptoms, and he did work the tapings prior to the WrestleMania taping, which has reportedly, it annoyed the likes of Roman Reigns and the Usos, part of the reason why Roman Reigns isn't on the WrestleMania card. So this match isn't happening. I don't specifically know the match that's in the place of this one. Rumors have suggested that it's going to be a ladder match of John Morrison versus Kofi Kingston or something along those lines. So I'm not going to do a prediction for this match because I don't know exactly what is going to replace it. I just know that it isn't happening. In terms of the Miz's situation, look, I understand trying to work, but if you're ill, especially at this period of time, no go. Don't let it happen. I don't blame, I mentioned this in the video yesterday, that I don't blame Roman Reigns for pulling out, especially in his situation, especially at this period of time. The show in general shouldn't be going on anyway. Shows in general shouldn't be going on anyway. WWE should have followed suit in every other major sporting promotion, every other major production, every other everything, to be honest, is just shut down or postponed indefinitely. And WWE and AEW, for that matter, should be no different now. Reports are coming out that after WrestleMania, they've got the Raw taped, but they haven't got anything else taped. Some people are saying that if the US strengthens their restrictions in terms of what people, if they can go out or if they go into full lockdown, any of that stuff, then WWE will take a break after WrestleMania, and we might not even see the taped Raw. My opinion, I would hope that's the case. After WrestleMania, they've got no excuses in terms of, we're still telling stories, all that sort of stuff. WrestleMania is your season finale anyway. That's what they call it, don't they? WrestleMania is the season finale every year. So just end it there. End it like any other TV series. Go, okay, we're on a break, season finale, done. And then you can pick up once again when everything else picks up, because the longer you go on doing shows, the longer you go on having gatherings of people. Of course, they're not mass gatherings anymore because you haven't got any fans there, but there's still gatherings of people. Even if it's only essential personnel, if it's only on a closed set, you're still gatherings of people, and you're still part of the problem. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. So that's all I've really got to say on that match. Like I said, don't know what the replacement match will be. Don't know if the tag title is going to be on the line. I doubt it now, because obviously the Miz isn't on the show, so we'll have to wait and see what the replacement is for that. We might find out tonight on SmackDown. Next up, we have the NXT Women's Championship on the line, as NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley defends against the 2020 Women's Royal Rumble winner Charlotte Flair. Doesn't the Royal Rumble seem so long ago at this point? Everything has changed significantly since then, hasn't it? A stadium full of people, so much hype for WrestleMania, and here we are now. Gosh, amazing the difference a couple of months can make. The feud for this one, look, I really wanted to see this match happen. And this was the feud that I wanted to see coming off of Charlotte Flair winning the Women's Royal Rumble. Didn't want her to see her face Becky Lynch. Didn't want to see her face Bayley because we've seen that match 100 times. We haven't seen Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. In terms of the story that they've told, I think they could have done it a bit better. I think this feud has left a little bit to be desired. I know the simple story and the easy story is, you're the rookie, you've never competed at WrestleMania, you've never done anything on the big stage, look what I've done everything. I get that story's fine. I just don't know if they've necessarily told it the best that they can tell it. I think Rhea Ripley has lost her edge as a character in this feud. The thing that made her so great in the build-up to her winning the NXT Women's Championship was that she did have that edge. She had that biting edge. She'd come out and just confront Shayna Baszler and say, you haven't beaten me, and that was the case with her with all of her matches in NXT, and the same with Bianca Belair. She was just like, you haven't beaten me, I'm this badass, you can't touch me. And I feel like in this feud with Charlotte Flair, she's lost her edge. She's become a little bit corporate. Look, this is what I said before, and CM Punk made a really, really good point all these years ago with WWE. If something gets over, if something gets hot or someone gets hot, then WWE looks at that and says, we can make money off of that, which is fine. That's the whole point of the business. But they have to get their hands on it. They have to tweak it. They have to change it. They have to, like CM Punk said, they have to get their hands on it. And then the marketing stuff gets into it. And then the WWE corporate spin gets onto it. And then they're shoved down their throats and it appears everywhere. And that's why we've seen this pattern of people getting over and then the WWE fan base turns on them because they get sick of them. Think of it. Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Could happen with Rhea Ripley now. Why? Because it gets corporate quickly and it gets the same quickly and it gets to marketing quickly. And fans just don't resonate with that in 2020. Now, I'm not saying Rhea Ripley is at that stage at the moment. I'm saying that the way her character has gone over the last 6 weeks or so, that's what it feels like to me. In terms of who do I think is going to win this one, I think Charlotte Flair is going to win it. I really do. And I think social media will probably explode when that happens. And people hearing this will say, well, why would Charlotte Flair win? She's on the main roster. Why would she go back to NXT? And this kind of goes into the Becky Lynch match later on. But I think Shayna Baszler wins that one. So what happens then? You have the NXT superstar go to Raw in Shayna Baszler because she's the Raw Women's Champion. And then you have the Raw superstar, Charlotte Flair, go to NXT as she's the NXT Women's Champion. You have a straight swap there. And I think that makes the most sense. And then Charlotte Flair can continue her feud with Rhea Ripley in NXT, which is considered the third brand now. This isn't developmental. This is on USA Network every week, the same as Monday Night Raw, the same platform as Monday Night Raw. Obviously, the audience is nowhere near the size. If Raw continues to go down, then maybe it will be the same size as NXT. But it's the same platform, same network. And I think that opens up a lot more matches for Charlotte Flair to have in NXT against, again, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai. Imagine a Charlotte Flair Io Shirai match. That'd be fantastic to see. Dakota Kai. So many more matches, and definitely more matches that Shayna Baszler has already had in NXT. So I think that swap is mutually beneficial for both brands and both superstars. So I'm gonna go with Charlotte Flair to win this one and then permanently move to NXT. Okay, next up we have Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. You know what? I think this is a feud that I think has been really benefited by the empty arena shows. I really do. I was one of those people that was getting tired of this feud very quickly. Of course, this feud really started the night after Survivor Series, so that's all the way back in November, and we're in April now, and at points, week to week on Raw, it felt like, we're just seeing the same thing every week. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins. Kevin Owens sneak up on Seth Rollins, stunner him. Seth Rollins comes out with his crew and they hit the stomp on Kevin Owens. That just seemed the default, wash your hands and rinse, which is very applicable now, by the way, formula to this feud. But then suddenly, now we've gone to the empty arena shows here, the promos from these two have been off the charts. A couple of weeks ago, Seth Rollins just cut the most amazing promo on Raw, talking about how the Performance Center was the place that he built. He talks about how Kevin Owens talks about coming to the Performance Center. This is where he learned what it took to be a WWE superstar, despite nobody ever thinking that he could make it in the WWE. Someone like him couldn't make it in the WWE, and he thinks there's no better place than the Performance Center to have this matchup against Seth Rollins, to have his WrestleMania moment, he being Kevin Owens. So really enjoyed the promos. And then, like I said, the Seth Rollins promo, the rebuttal to that, saying he built the Performance Center out of the ashes of the old FCW. Everything that is there and everything that will house their match at WrestleMania is because of Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins talked about his history at WrestleMania, which is completely true. You think about how well Seth Rollins has done at a WrestleMania. 31, of course. Let's go back to his first one. First one at 30, wins with the Shield against Kane and the New Age Outlaws. It's amazing that match actually was a thing, looking back on it. WrestleMania 31, yes, he loses to Randy Orton, but people forget that. People remember him winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, cashing in the main event. Misses WrestleMania 32 due to injury. WrestleMania 33 defeats Triple H. WrestleMania 34 wins the Intercontinental Championship in the opener of the show. And 35 last year, of course, beats Brock Lesnar to become Universal Champion. So his run at WrestleMania is kind of unparalleled in the last few years. Probably Roman Reigns is the only person that has a better record in terms of WrestleMania than Seth Rollins. In fact, Roman Reigns lost in the main event of 34, didn't he? So maybe it's about the same. That was his story, and then he said to Kevin Owens, look, you've done nothing at WrestleMania. All you've done is lose, which is relatively true, ignoring the Chris Jericho victory that he had at WrestleMania 33, winning the US Championship. Bit of a major win there, but Chris Jericho, don't speak his name in WWE anymore, of course, blackballed. So really enjoyed the promos. I think the empty arena shows has really benefited a feud that was getting tired very quickly. So interested in seeing this match. I think the winner of this match will be Kevin Owens. The reason why is because, good guys win at WrestleMania. Also, rumors, of course, that prior to all of this, that Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch were going to be taking a break after WrestleMania. So I don't know if that's still going to happen, but I think WWE is going to be taking a break after WrestleMania, not just Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. So I think Kevin Owens win this one, and I think that puts a nice bow on the feud, and we can finally see Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens move in different directions. Next up, we have the SmackDown Women's Championship being defended in a fatal 5-way elimination match, having the SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley defending against Lacey Evans, Naomi, Sasha Banks, and Tamina. Yes, Tamina is going to be in a WrestleMania match. Forget Kofi Mania. Forget anything. Forget Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. The best comeback story, the most underdog story of all time. Tamina is getting a match at WrestleMania. Can you believe it? And even on SmackDown last week, they were positioning her like she was the dark horse. She was the credible threat. I hope she will get eliminated first, and that's exactly what I think will happen, looking at the competitors in the match. It's just funny. Of course, Dana Brooke, was meant to be in this match as well. This was going to be a six-pack challenge, six-pack elimination match, whatever you want to call it. But she was quarantined due to showing symptoms of you-know-what. Having a high temperature shows she's out. They quietly dropped that on SmackDown last week. In terms of who do I think is going to win the match, I think Bayley retains here. I think they continue the story about potentially splitting up Sasha Banks and Bayley at some point. That's obviously the match we're going to go with later on down the line. It was rumored at one point we were going to have Bayley versus Sasha Banks, but due to injuries with Sasha Banks and just not having enough time, they didn't want to tell that story yet. And then obviously with the empty arena show, look, that match deserves an arena or a stadium setting, in my opinion. I got into a bit of a discussion with Sean Ross Sapp on Twitter about this, and he said that he gets frustrated when, look, we've had a couple of times at this point of them going, we're going to have Bayley versus Sasha. We're going to have Bayley versus Sasha. We've never really had it on the main roster. And then WWE hasn't followed through. I do genuinely think the plan was to follow through with this at WrestleMania. Obviously, like I said, time and now the extenuating circumstances haven't allowed that. I think it's better off that they hold out on this one. And he got almost quite offended, saying, WWE's hold out on loads of things. You can't just keep saying that, assuming that WWE is going to do it. Of course, WWE is going to do this match. But my point was, I'm glad they're not doing it now. It's a match that deserves an arena, deserves a stadium full of people. Look at the match they had in NXT. Look at the matches they had in NXT. Talk about women's revolution. These two, I would say, really spearheaded the women's revolution in NXT. Certainly, they're the most two talked about matches from the women's side of things in NXT history by far. So that match deserves an arena setting or a stadium setting full of people. I'm glad they're saving it. SummerSlam, if it goes ahead, is meant to happen in Boston, Massachusetts, the hometown of Sasha Banks. What better way to tell it, the story, than an arena full of people? Hopefully this is all blown over by then, and you have an arena full of people, and you can have Bayley versus Sasha Banks. So the argument that, you can't trust WWE to save it. No, you can't. I agree with that. But you can't get angry for me saying I'd rather have it at a different time. That's it. That's it. It's going to happen at a different time. It is going to happen at a different time. It's going to happen. There's only so many combinations WWE can do, especially in the women's division. So it's going to happen later, but there's no need to get angry by it. That's what I didn't get. There's no need to get angry by it because they could have done it at a certain time. But I think it's better that they've held out. And this isn't saying that was part of WWE's grand plan and they did it on purpose, because they didn't. They don't look that far ahead. I'm not giving them that credit, but I'm saying I'm happy it's not happening now. That was my point. But I guess that rubbed in the wrong way. Who knows? But who's going to win? Bayley. I think they're going to tease the future Sasha Banks and Bayley split up. That will lead to Sasha Banks getting eliminated by maybe Naomi or Lacey Evans. But it will come down, I think, to Bayley and Lacey Evans being the last two. But I think Bayley wins this one. Next, we have The Undertaker facing AJ Styles in a boneyard match, whatever a boneyard match is. Really, really looking forward to this one. This is one of the matches, along with another one we'll go into shortly, that was filmed off-site. It wasn't filmed at the Performance Center. It was filmed at a different location. I'm assuming a graveyard-like location, hence the boneyard match. That would make the most sense logically. But really looking forward to this one, and the reason why I'm really looking forward to it is because it's the return of the American Badass, or it looks like the return of the American Badass, if Raw was anything to go by. This storyline has been different. I love The Undertaker. I'm a huge fan of The Undertaker. Who isn't? And who doesn't have the most respect for The Undertaker? But of course, it does feel like in the last few years, given his age as well, the storylines are very samey. The gimmick is very samey. That's not to say there's anything wrong with it, but you know what you're going to get. And that's just what it is with The Undertaker. That's what he does, the greatest hits, isn't he? So, but to have something different, to revert back to this American Badass version of the character, was really intriguing for me. His promo Monday Night on Raw was the best promo that The Undertaker has cut in the longest time, in my opinion. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the throwback line of "Try me, I'll make you famous." It's in a graveyard, so it's still, or boneyard, whatever you want to call it. So it's still going to be, of course, very gothic and very Undertaker Deadman centric. But perhaps because of this personal nature of the feud, because of this personal element of the feud, AJ Styles invoking Mark Calloway, using his real name, invoking his family, invoking his wife, Michelle McCool, talking about all those elements that you usually don't hear about with The Undertaker on WWE TV. We're going to see something different. We're going to see something that's new, or a throwback to the American Badass, or a hybrid between the two of something we haven't seen before. The Undertaker, of course, is up there with Chris Jericho, probably ahead of Chris Jericho, as the king of evolution, king of evolving his character as the times go on. And this is the next step in the evolution of the Undertaker character, the switch back to the American Badass, Big Evil, whatever you want to call it, Deadman Inc. It's a throwback to that character. So I'm really excited to see this one. Really excited to see what a boneyard match is. I mean, we still don't really know what that match really entails. Is it a buried alive match? Is it a version of a buried alive match? Are they just having a match in a graveyard, or a graveyard-like setting? It would appear something like that. It's going to be physical. Of course, there's going to be smoke and mirrors, quite literally, probably, to get around the limitations that The Undertaker has at this age. But I'm really interested to see The Undertaker back to the Big Evil character on the big stage. Hopefully he brings out a motorcycle, rides to the boneyard, maybe comes out to You're Gonna Pay, or maybe even better, Rolling by Limp Bizkit. Who knows? But I'm really excited for this one. Really interested to see what The Undertaker pulls out and what a boneyard match really entails. I think the storyline's been great. I think it's been gripping. And like I said, The Undertaker took it to a new level Monday Night on Raw with his promo. Really enjoyed it. So in terms of who do I think is going to win, it's WrestleMania. It's The Undertaker. I know he's got 2 defeats on his WrestleMania scorecard now, but it still, to me, seems sacrilege to have Undertaker lose at WrestleMania unless this is going to be his final match in his career, not just his final WrestleMania match. This very well could be his final WrestleMania match. I think he might save an extra year considering the circumstances now. But it won't be his final match. I think if he did have his final match, it would be at Survivor Series this year, the 30th anniversary of his debut. So I think The Undertaker wins this one, but really excited to see what this match entails. Next up, we have Bray Wyatt going up against John Cena in a Firefly Funhouse match. Now, again, a bit like with the Boneyard match, what that match actually entails, we'll have to wait and see. It's the second match along with the Boneyard match that has actually been filmed at a separate location as opposed to at the Performance Center. So it's obviously going to be something different, a different backdrop. If I was to speculate as to what a Firefly Funhouse is, I would suggest it's probably something similar to a Matt Hardy sort of Ultimate Deletion match, whereby it's more filmed like a television episode, more filmed like a abstract, different. The wrestling element is almost secondary, with the backdrop, instead of being the Hardy compound, being the Firefly Funhouse. We open up that setting a bit more. We don't just have the blue screen and the pictures behind us. This time we also have, we really open up the Firefly Funhouse, essentially. It becomes a legitimate house, almost a house of horrors sort of situation, whereby the match starts with John Cena entering the Funhouse and just opening that up. And that's quite interesting, actually, as a concept of seeing more to the setting than just the backdrop we usually see on the Firefly Funhouse episodes every week on SmackDown. So interested to see what the match obviously entails. I've enjoyed the build up to this. I thought the promos were great. John Cena's promos have been really good in it, but Bray Wyatt stole the show in terms of that. On the first empty arena SmackDown they had, that Bray Wyatt promo at the end and showing a vulnerability, appearing not as the Fiend in the arena for only the second or third time, where he appeared as Bray Wyatt in the cardigan, and like I said, talking about how his loss at WrestleMania 30 led him to the person he is today, and the voices in his head caused him to become the person he is today. Those voices also manifested themselves into a Firefly Funhouse, into the character now known as the Fiend. So there's been really good storytelling in this, and look, how many WrestleMania matches does John Cena have left at this point? We really don't know. So really interested in seeing this one out. In terms of prediction, I think Bray Wyatt's going to win this one. I think he's going to redeem his WrestleMania loss at WrestleMania 30. If he doesn't win, that for me is Bray Wyatt done. The whole problem with him previously, before he completely reinvented himself, was he would get to a certain point, but he would always lose the big matches. Every match he's pretty much been in at WrestleMania at this point, he loses. That's Bray Wyatt. Whether it's for the WWE Championship, whether it's getting his ass kicked by John Cena and The Rock, whether it's losing to John Cena at WrestleMania 30, losing to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 31. That was the problem with Bray Wyatt. That's the reason that character before wasn't credible, because every time there's a big match, he lost. So he can't afford to lose this one. And coming off of the heels of that just stupid Goldberg match at Super Showdown, he can't afford to lose even more. But I don't think that will be the case this time. I think John Cena recognizes the importance of making new stars. He talked about that on Corey Graves' podcast, talked about how WWE needs to make new stars and how it needs a front man, and maybe WWE can't create one at the moment. He's going to do his best to help WWE create one. That's for sure. So I think John Cena puts Bray Wyatt over, and I think hopefully Bray Wyatt comes out of WrestleMania more over, more stronger as a character than he has been before. And let's be honest, John Cena isn't putting over any schmug, if that's a word, at WrestleMania. He put over The Undertaker. Didn't appear at last year's WrestleMania. Well, he did, but didn't compete. So I think Bray Wyatt wins this one, or he has to win this one. So that's what I'm going with. But I'm really interested in the concept of the match, and I'm really interested in the whole setting, how they're going to pull this off. A bit like with the Boneyard match, because they've been taped at these different locations, it's going to have a different aesthetic to it. It'll certainly be shot differently as well, so it's going to have a different feel to it. So really interested to see how this one plays out. Next, we have Edge versus Randy Orton in a last man standing match. This is the match that I'm looking forward to the most, not just because it's Edge's return to the ring at WrestleMania, his first singles match he's had since returning at the Royal Rumble, his first singles match since his last match, which of course was at WrestleMania 9 years ago, at WrestleMania 27. I'm also looking forward to it because it's been the best story on WWE TV by far. not just in the run up to this event, but also just in a very, very long time in general. There's not really much more to say about it apart from how it's been so good. The promo that Edge cut Monday night on Raw backstage is one of the best promos, I think, on WWE television in a long, long time. Now, I've spoken about this feud in long form on another video here on the channel. It's in the WrestleMania playlist, so be sure to check that out. Where I go through it in a lot more of a linear fashion about how we got to the last man standing match at WrestleMania. But just to sort of quickly go through all of that, it's just been brilliant from day one, hasn't it? You know, the return of Edge at the Royal Rumble, the emotion that had, that shot of Edge coming through the smoke and having tears in his eyes is it's an iconic shot in WWE history already. Then you had the Randy Orton attack the following night, the emotional return of Edge, and then the brutal attack, the crowd screaming, Edge selling the pain. Factor in the couple of weeks that Matt Hardy got involved in it. That was great. Then you had the Beth Phoenix attack, where Randy Orton RKO'd Beth Phoenix. And then you had the Edge return, the little bit of physicality on Randy Orton. And then ever since then, when we've had the empty arena shows, we've just had great promos. Great promos. Randy Orton's been at the top of his game, at his very best in this feud. I remember Chris Jericho saying that Randy Orton, to him, is the best wrestler today. He just doesn't know it, or sometimes he can't be bothered. And Randy Orton sometimes has been criticised for going through the motions or not really taking it as seriously as he should. And sometimes you can't blame him. Some of the creative he is given is shambolic. But when he's motivated, when he's in the zone, like he has been this entire Edge feud, he really is one of the very best. And he's the best sort of psychological heel, unpredictable character going when he's at the top of his game. So he's been great. And then, of course, Edge has just not missed a beat since returning. His promos have been fantastic, and it was really topped off by that promo Monday Night on Raw. That was really, really tremendous viewing. So really interested in seeing this one. I know I've been saying that for a lot of matches now, but this one should be good. And I know that we don't have the good thing, I suppose, and maybe it does take the drama out of it, but this isn't much of a spoiler, but of course it has been taped, and we know that Edge isn't seriously hurt or injured, and he's got through the match properly, so that worry is gone. So you can just sit back and enjoy the match and the story that they will tell. I'm sure they'll tell a tremendous story, which, in my opinion, and this is the prediction, obviously Edge I think is going to win this one. I think that's a given. He has to. And I think he'll win by hitting Randy Orton with a concerto or a couple of concertos and keeping him down for the 10 count. I think that's the only finish they can go for. That's to me would be the right finish. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe Beth Phoenix get involved in this one somehow, some way. I'm not sure how that would factor in. Maybe they could tell the story whereby, you know, Randy Orton's threatening to hit a concerto on maybe the likes of Beth Phoenix, and then he says, "Look, just you've got to lay down or I'm going to do it." So Edge lays down for the 10 count. That would be an awesome finish. And then Randy Orton hits it with the concerto anyway. Imagine that. Storytelling. I might write an article about that one. That's literally just come off the top of my head now, by the way. That wasn't planned. So maybe they'll go for that. But I still think that Randy Orton will lose this one, and I think Edge will come out on top. Next, we have Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler, Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch, at this point, I don't know if has she officially been Raw Women's Champion for 365 days. She won both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania last year, and has held the Raw Women's Championship anyway ever since. So it's the return to her greatest victory. They mentioned about, you know, Ronda Rousey on Raw on Monday. Do I think she will return at this event? I don't think so. I think that may have been the plan initially. I think the plan initially may have been Ronda Rousey to return at WrestleMania at the Raymond James Stadium to attack Becky Lynch or get involved in the finish, that sort of thing. Because obviously it moved to the Performance Center and we got the empty arena shows, and this was taped last week. I don't think that has happened. I mean, we don't know, do we? But I don't think that will happen. I think they might save that for later on now. As I mentioned with the Seth Rollins match, there was rumors about Becky Lynch taking time off after WrestleMania. With the likes of Seth Rollins as well. So I think that does factor into this match too. In terms of the build-up, the build-up's been fine. I wasn't the biggest fan of the whole biting of the back of the neck segment. I just thought that was too much. And as I mentioned earlier with the Rhea Ripley thing, once someone moves to the main roster, they have to get their hands on it. And suddenly suddenly Shayna Baszler now has always been referring to herself as the cage fighter, Shayna Baszler, cage fighter. She doesn't need a moniker, just let her be Shayna Baszler. So, like I said, in terms of the build-up, it's been okay. It's not been amazing. I think the Becky Lynch character has lost a lot of edge over the last year. It's become too samey. It's become too nice to be really considered as the man. Whatever the man was in the first place, that more defiant character. Again, the edge has come off of it. Similar to the Rhea Ripley issue. And again, that's because it's been marketed. It's been corporatized, if that's a word. So that's been the case with Becky Lynch. In terms of the prediction, I think Shayna Baszler leaves the Raw Women's Champion and ends Becky Lynch's year-long reign. As to why I think this is the case, there's several reasons. Like I said, one, I think there was rumours that Becky Lynch was going to be taking time off after WrestleMania with Seth Rollins, going on their honeymoon or whenever they are due to get married. But in this case, WWE is just going on hold after WrestleMania, or taking time off after WrestleMania. So that obviously will still factor in. Secondly, I mentioned with the Charlotte Flair match, I think Shayna Baszler and Charlotte Flair will swap places. And how do you do that? You have them winning the respective championships on each show. So Shayna Baszler wins the Raw Women's Championship, moves from NXT to Raw. She's still listed as an NXT superstar, even though she hasn't appeared on there in the longest time. And then Charlotte Flair wins the NXT Women's Championship, moves to NXT from Raw. So you have both superstars trading places and gaps filled on both rosters. So I think that makes sense. I don't think it's good to have Shayna Baszler lose her first major match on the main roster. She doesn't have loads of years ahead of her, so you have to make hay while the sun is shining. In the case of Shayna Baszler, she had the dominant victory at Elimination Chamber, and I don't think she should have that as dominant victory and then lose to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. I know it's the John Cena scenario whereby you have to make the next heel big enough to face Becky Lynch. She's the main face of the Raw Women's Division, or the Women's Division in WWE in general. But I think Shayna Baszler should win this one. I think they need to do more to get her heel character over on the main roster. Yes, there have been rumours that Vince McMahon isn't exactly happy with her, or happy with the reactions that she has been getting. But look, when there's no fans, you can control that narrative a lot better. And it's a lot more difficult to have the litmus test of if someone really is getting over or not. So I think they will pull the trigger with Shayna Baszler. Perhaps you could have a Ronda Rousey appearance. I don't think they will. I think that might have been the case in the stadium, but I don't think they will now. But they've mentioned a lot of Ronda Rousey, so maybe she does get involved somehow, some way, factors into it. Maybe have a Shayna Baszler Ronda Rousey feud. I doubt they will. I think the feud to tell is the Becky Lynch Ronda Rousey feud, but I think I'll be told at next year's WrestleMania. So I think all of that stuff, Ronda Rousey wise, will be put on hold, although there have been rumblings about it. So maybe we will see something, who knows. But in terms of the result, like I said, I think Shayna Baszler wins this one, and it'll be her swapping with Charlotte Flair. So that's the result I'm going to go with. Okay, the two World Championship matches. Let's first start off with the Universal Championship. Now, it's obviously scheduled, and it still hasn't been changed yet, to have Goldberg defending the Universal Championship against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Now, we know that this isn't happening, even though it's still announced and scheduled to be happening according to WWE TV and their listings everywhere, which to me, I've mentioned that I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think it's false advertising. And I know some people said, well, WWE just wait to change. It's in the storyline. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with WWE telling people to call their local cable providers and sign up to the network to watch a match that they know isn't going to happen, and it's well known isn't going to happen. To me, that's false advertising. I know card is subject to change, but to me, that just ethically doesn't sit right with me. As far as the Roman Reigns situation, as to why he should have pulled out, if it was the right call, I mentioned this in my previous video, absolutely is the right call. He's got to think of his own health, his kids, his family, the wider community. I don't want to go over things a million times again, but WWE shouldn't be going forward with their shows anyway, and soon they won't have a choice in the matter, with the Florida governor issuing a stay-at-home warning and a stay-at-home order. So that will change soon, but Roman Reigns should be commended, pulled the right action, so he won't be competing at WrestleMania. And in terms of WWE not announcing it, Roman Reigns has been public that he's not going to be at WrestleMania. He announced on his social media Monday night that he'd pulled out of WrestleMania for those health reasons and for other reasons, and WWE is still yet to update it. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the video, this at the time of recording, we're recording this before Friday Night SmackDown airs later tonight, so they will announce his replacement there. And this is partially a spoiler, I guess, but it's pretty well known at this point. There's obviously, like I said at the start, there's no match spoilers in terms of the outcomes or creative spoilers, but it's well known that his replacement will indeed be Braun Strowman. Now, I mentioned on my video yesterday my feelings on that. I don't think it's the right call. There's several reasons why I don't think that's the right call. One would be that Braun Strowman should have been Universal Champion, 2 years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. That was the opportunity to make him Universal Champion. They missed the boat on that one, and his brand, his gimmick has been violated and hasn't been the same since. They have booked this man so poorly and so badly for so many years that now is the time you think is appropriate to put the Universal title on him. Just no way. And I understand, like I've said before, there are extenuating circumstances here and circumstances beyond WWE's control, but they can do better than Braun Strowman. Secondly, his recent comments about independent wrestlers asking for money, asking for donations, asking for fans to visit their merch stores, calling them beggars and saying they needed to be held accountable, and if they couldn't afford to be in the business, they should get out of it. Coming from someone like him who's got a guaranteed contract, who gets merch rewards from WWE, who signed a new deal last year that has a guaranteed income, regardless if he competes or not, is, I mean, just so ridiculous. And most people that get into professional wrestling aren't 7 feet tall and nearly 400 pounds at the time they came in. It's a load of rubbish. He even tried to backtrack and say that, I'm not getting paid at the moment. That's a load of baloney as well. From what I've understood, people have had a word with him. He's deleted the posts, but that still doesn't make it any different to me. It doesn't change my mindset. You can't just say, well, he deleted it, so he's all forgiven. He's not forgiven because that's how he feels. Someone can try and educate him on the matter, but that's obviously how he feels about the situation. So he shouldn't be rewarded by being given the Universal Championship after saying some stuff like that. And I'm a big Braun Strowman fan. I'm a big advocate for him to be Universal Champion for the longest time, but now isn't the right time. Even his Intercontinental title run was underwhelming at best. And many people said at the time that was his last chance to truly get over. And it's just not been the same since he really was feuding with Roman Reigns back in, when was that, 2016, 17? Those matches were great, but ever since then, not so much. So he'll be replacing Roman Reigns, even though I don't think that's the right call. Prediction-wise, I mean, it's crazy, but it looks like Braun Strowman will indeed become Universal Champion. I can't see any. The only thing I could think is that Goldberg would retain because he's thinking, I'll hold the title till this blows over, then I'll face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam or something and drop the title there. So I don't think a Goldberg win is completely out of the question, like it was with Roman Reigns. When the Roman Reigns situation, Roman Reigns was winning easily, hands down, and very quickly and very emphatically. That's maybe not the case now, but I still think Braun Strowman wins. I don't think Goldberg is going to stay around much longer after WrestleMania. I'm just interested to see if Goldberg can get Braun Strowman up for a jackhammer, because I don't think there's any way that he can. He struggled to get up Bray Wyatt for a jackhammer, so there is no way he's getting up Braun Strowman. And let's be honest, these two guys in the ring, Braun Strowman's an okay worker, but he has to have a good dance partner. And Goldberg, we know his limitations even at his peak, so let alone now. We've seen some of the matches. Do I have to say Undertaker Super Showdown? So we know his limitations. So this could be an absolute car crash of a match, even though it's pre-taped and edited. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's edited to how, because I'd love to see the original copy of that, because there's no way there aren't a couple of botches in it. I just think Braun Strowman will win this one. Like I said, the only way that I think that Goldberg could hold on to the title is if they've gone, okay, we're hoping things have cleared up by SummerSlam in August. We'll do the Roman Reigns Goldberg match then. So that's the only reason I think that they might hold the title on Goldberg, considering they are considering taking a break after WrestleMania. But I don't think that will happen. I think Braun Strowman is going to come out the victor in this one and be the Universal Champion, which is crazy, considering that he will only be announced as the challenger 24 or 48 hours before they actually have the match, even though they've already had the match. But in storyline terms, everything's so messy at the moment, isn't it? So Braun Strowman to win this one. I think it will be a messy match. It won't be a long one. Goldberg's, I think, record match he's had since his return in WWE in 2016 is that WrestleMania match against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33, and that was about 5 minutes long, I think. His match against Bray Wyatt was 3, so I think it's going to be between 3 and 5 minutes. I'd be shocked if it goes any more than 5 minutes, but I think Braun Strowman wins. And finally, we have what I consider to be the main event. We have the WWE Championship on the line as WWE Champion Brock Lesnar defends against Drew McIntyre. In terms of the build-up for this one, I was really enjoying it until we had the empty arena shows. Since the empty arena shows have happened, it's become almost a bit of an afterthought. We've had no interaction from either man. Which isn't a bad thing. You don't want them getting too close together considering the circumstances, and then your whole WrestleMania main event is blown. But prior to that, the interactions they had when we were still having the arena shows, the Claymores on the stage and the Claymores in the ring, the F5 on McIntyre, they were great. It's a real shame for Drew because he was getting more over every single week in front of the live crowd. The live crowd was loving him. The reactions he was getting was amazing. The whole 3-2-1 Claymore thing was great. I don't know if you've seen it, but their BT Sport over here in the UK did I've done a promo, an advert with Drew McIntyre where he's training in sort of mountains of Scotland in horrible weather. I believe that was only filmed like a couple of weeks ago as well, so it wasn't super long ago. Obviously, must be before this whole thing happened around the world. But yeah, really great advert. I'd recommend to go watch it. It's on the BT Sport YouTube channel or BT Sport WWE YouTube channel. So definitely give that a watch. But like I said, the build-up to the match prior to the empty arena shows was great. I thought Paul Heyman's promo on Raw was pretty good. And Brock Lesnar, even in an empty room, is pretty intimidating, or even possibly more intimidating than when he's in an arena full of people. Brock Lesnar is quite well known for being, becoming like a walking meme or GIF in these big matches with some of his facials and some of his reactions. So I'll be interested to see what he says in an empty arena where everything is picked up on mic. I'm sure he'll say some crazy stuff. But in terms of the outcome, I think that Drew McIntyre will still win this one. I think that was always the plan from the outset, but a bit like with the Roman Reigns Goldberg thing, I think some people are worried now that they're like, well, given the circumstances and given that there won't be any fans there to give Drew McIntyre his major moment, should we hold it off until the likes of SummerSlam and we can give Drew his moment there in an arena full of people? I hope they don't do that. I think they might as well just pull the trigger anyway. This is going to be the weirdest WrestleMania in history. Give it some moments that people are going to talk about apart from having no fans there. So I still do think that Drew McIntyre will win this one. I hope Drew McIntyre still wins this one. But nothing's for certain with WWE. They've pulled this before with Brock Lesnar. I think back to WrestleMania 34, where everyone assumed that Brock Lesnar wasn't going to win. He was off to UFC for the millionth time, even though he's never actually gone to UFC at the end of a WWE contract. Funny how that happens. But everyone assumed he was going to lose that one, and he won. And everyone, shit all over the match because the crowd thought, oh, we know what's going to happen here. And then what they thought wasn't going to happen didn't happen. So it was bizarre. It was really bizarre. But so some people, of course, naturally are worried that they might do the same here. They might go, well, it's known that Brock is sticking around for a while. It's known that we're going to have no fans there. Maybe we might let Brock hold on to the title a bit longer. He might give Drew McIntyre that moment at SummerSlam. My worry was that WWE loses interest in things, people, and pushes very quickly. So if Drew McIntyre doesn't win the title at this WrestleMania, they might lose interest in him straight away. This isn't a Roman Reigns situation whereby WWE has invested a lot in Drew McIntyre. They can drop the Drew McIntyre push as quickly as they want. So hopefully they strike while the iron's hot with him and get him the WWE title off on him. And regardless of if he loses momentum, if WWE takes a break, that doesn't bother me. Just get the title on Drew McIntyre and we can start building momentum again once the break is over. So I'm still going to go with Drew McIntyre for this one, but I don't think it's completely said and done. I will say that. So going to go with Drew McIntyre, but hey, you can't rule out anything with WWE. But that's all the matches. Thank God, there's about 1 million of them. But what do you think? What are your predictions for WrestleMania for both days? Which days are you looking forward to the most? What do you think about the empty arena setting? What last-minute changes, swerves, or surprises do you think we'll see at WrestleMania this year? Let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and share, and most importantly, subscribe. We finally reached our goal of having 100 subscribers. Let's get up to 200 as quickly as we can. How do you do that? Of course, by subscribing. You can click the bottom right-hand corner on the video there, or click the subscribe button, or if you wait a couple more seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you've come across this video today, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Enjoy WrestleMania. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click at the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.